Great hero here in Croatia against Cedric Pioline of France, playing in his 8th ATP Tour final and still looking for his first title. And there's the trophy of this new tournament. And in addition to the trophy, they're playing today for a first prize of 54,000 US dollars. The runner-up will settle for 31,830. The winner will get 160 ranking points. The runner-up 115, and the Marseillaise being played for Pioline. That's an unusual touch in a tournament final, and now, of course, the Croatian national anthem. And in the centre there, the gentleman with the glasses, Franjo Tuđman, the president of one of the world's new nations, understandably very proud of their new nation and their new national anthem. I suppose we're getting used to new nations, not just in the world of politics, but in the world of sport, with all the former Eastern countries splitting up into their constituent parts. To the tennis then, meeting for the 4th time today, and this is how Goran Ivanisevic progressed through, coming through a couple of tight matches in the last 2 rounds, yesterday beating Guy Forget 6-4 in the final set in the semi-finals, and in his quarter-final coming from a set down to beat Adrian Voinea of Romania. And if we look at Cedric Pioline, who's come through unseeded, he beat a seed in the first round, the veteran Swiss Jakob Plasek. And crucially, he saved 2 match points in the quarter-final against Philippe de Wolf of Belgium. Rudi Berger from Germany, the senior of the umpires here this week, is taking charge of the final. Ivanisevic leads 2-1 in terms of their previous matches. Funnily enough, this is the 4th out of 4 that has been played indoors in carpet. They first met in Paris in '92. Ivanisevic won 6-4, 7-5. Then in '93 in Antwerp, Pioline won 7-6, 6-love. And last year in Milan, Ivanisevic won 7-6, 6-4. So for Macmillan alongside me, David Mercer, I suppose the big question is, can Pioline break his duck at the 8th attempt, his 8th final, and still looking for his first win?
Well, I would say that if it were anywhere else but Zagreb, I would hope sincerely that he did so for his sake. I'm not so sure that I feel it's for France's sake. don't quite know about the national anthems for a tournament where people really are playing as individuals. I, for one, am a patriot about South Africa, but I don't think I would have liked to have heard the South African national anthem when I was playing elsewhere and in an event which didn't involve a team sport. And I think what it does too is it puts certainly, I think, a lot more pressure on Ivanisevic, who the Lord alone knows has had enough this week as it is. Not only the fact that the crowd expects him to win. He is the top seed after all. He's got that 10th ranking, as we can see there. He is the outstanding player in the draw, and of course he for one probably would have quite welcomed that, as we see his route through, because he always does feel that he plays for Croatia, so perhaps he's really put a bit of extra pressure on himself and only has himself to blame if the anthem in fact does unnerve him.
Cedric Pioline, ranked 62, but it has been as high as number 9 in the world. He's the only player who's ever been in, or who's been in the top 10 of the world rankings, not to have won a title. Michael Pernfors, the Swede who got to the final of the French Open many years ago, broke into the top 10 before winning a title, but subsequently did so. You can see some of his final appearances, and in particular there the US Open, where he lost to Pete Sampras in the final, having beaten the #1 seed Jim Courier in the quarters. And the big win undoubtedly against Philippe de Waal from 2 match points down in the quarters. So maybe just like Boris Becker, who came from behind in his first 2 matches. As we look at confirmation of the head-to-head record, Boris came from behind in his first 2 matches at the Australian Open, and you felt was perhaps destined to win. Maybe Pioline, having come from 2 match points down, feels that he's destined to break his duck. And sadly, the news about Boris is that he is out of Germany's team for the Davis Cup tie against Switzerland at the end of this week with a calf muscle injury, which also must make him doubtful for Dubai the following week and 1 or 2 of the other ATP Tour tournaments. So the balance of power in that Swiss-German Davis Cup tie may well have changed quite dramatically with that news. Good to see a good crowd inside the Dom Sportova, which holds some 3,000 people.
Yes, I suppose Pioline really has almost come from the dead, and therefore he's a bit like Becker, as you say. Ivanisevic, if not coming back from the dead, perhaps at least from a coma, because he's been in some pretty tough 3-setters, and we think of that very difficult one against Voinier that he had. Pioline was down match points against the Belgian Philippe de Waal, who we saw here on Eurosport last year do so well by winning the tournament as a qualifier in Vienna. Looking at the people that Pioline has lost to in his finals, he hasn't yet lost to a left-hander, so perhaps that's a good sign for him, playing left-hander. It would be, but for the fact that in looking through Pioline's results last year, he actually had a far worse record against left-handers than he did a winning record. The only people he managed to beat were Forget and Peter Korda, but he did lose in 3 tournaments in succession to Volkov, Jan Appel of Sweden, and Goran Ivanisevic himself. So those were 3 left-handers in a row. Then also he lost twice to Thomas Musa. He also lost to Marcelo Rios and to Clavet. So not a good record against left-handers. And that doesn't bode particularly well for him, but of course for Croatia and for Ivanisevic it does.
Just looking at the people he has lost to in those 7 previous finals, I mean, they're a pretty distinguished bunch, with maybe one exception. He's lost to Pete Sampras twice. I beg your pardon, 3 times. He's lost to Sergei Bruguera. He's lost to Yevgeny Kavelnikov. He's lost to his fellow Frenchman Arnaud Birch. But I suppose the one he will really regret, the match he was certainly expected to win, was in Bolzano in 1993, when he lost to Jonathan Stark, and with all due respect to the American Stark, he's not quite in the same class as the others.
No, so I suppose they both sort of feel that they're, and should do, of course, having come this far and under duress, that they're in with a good shot. They certainly had a lot of tennis. Ivanisevic has had more games coming in here, and they both in fact played in the doubles as well, and had similar sort of treatment there, winning a round each and then losing in 3 sets in the second round. Pioline has lost 43 games coming into this final, so that's quite a bit of singles play. Ivanisevic, even more, has lost 50 games, so his really has been a stuttering route to the final. But of course what that might have done for both of them is certainly attuned them to the surface, which is a carpet. A bit of a misnomer as a carpet. I always think of carpet as sort of a snooker-like felt, but this in fact is more rubbery. But it's laid on wood, so quite nice and springy for the two players. But being indoors, of course, very fast through the air and quite speedy by now off the court surface as well. So that does aid Ivanisevic, there's no doubt.
Goran served 74 aces so far this week in his 4 previous matches, and his overall his first serve percentage is very good, 61%. In comparison, Pioline 35 aces, but percentage of first serves in 63. The one aspect that Pioline has done rather better on is in terms of converting break points, because he's converted 10 of the 25 break points he's had during the week, and Ivanisevic has only converted 7 of the 23 he's had.
Yes, of course, that discrepancy generally, because Pioline is a little safer off the ground. I would say Ivanisevic is certainly dangerous, and I've always believed could in fact be a lot more dangerous if he just gave a bit more application and time to his ground shots, because he's got that terrific left-handed forehand. He's very good when he runs wide on the left side, and a double-handed backhand, which I think can be very, very outstanding, certainly more than useful. But he is erratic on it, and Pioline a lot safer. What we might watch for, and both of them are mishits. They've both, certainly no reflection on the court because it bounces pretty truly, but both of them been mishitting quite a bit. And I think that's, of course, because they're trying to force perhaps just a little too much and take their eye off the ball in so doing.
So we are set for the first final of the Croatian indoors, and it's Cedric Pioline to serve.
Ivanisevic won the spin of the coin.
Out. But now sober, 15 over.
So the first ace of the final comes from Pioline.
Yes, he served 12 against Goran in 2 sets in the semi-final.
Whoops, oh dear. Well, no damage done, just tripping over himself. And so Cedric Pioline wins the opening game of this final. Just tell you that 2 winners already today in the women's event in Tokyo. Eva Maioli beat Arancho Sanchez Vicario 6-4, 6-1, and in Shanghai Andrei Olchowski beat Mark Knowles 7-6, 6-2. Now these are the Mercedes Super 9 events, the top 9 tournaments on the ATP Tour, starting in America. next month. Indian Wells, California, Key Biscayne, Florida. Then we're back on the clay in Monte Carlo and the German Open in Hamburg. And that clay court run continues as we move to the Foro Italico in Rome for the Italian Open. Then after the grass court season in Wimbledon, we're over to the States in Cincinnati for the ATP Championship there on hard courts, and then to Toronto, and then the 2 indoor tournaments in the autumn back in Europe. That's the Mercedes Super 9, all of which we will be covering here on Eurosport, every day of them.
Players have to travel enormous miles, don't they, in pursuit of the dollar.
Ivanisevic opens with an ace. We don't have a speed gun here this week, so we haven't been able to measure how quick he's been serving.
I don't think we've yet seen him do 4 successive aces. Well, it looks good on the score sheet, but feels foul for the opposition. It looked like Pioline was prepared to give him it.
Ivanisevic's 16th double fault of the week. Pioline has been very miserly in that department. He's only served 6. Pioline's a spectator in this game. Hasn't got a racket on the ball yet. We've had 4 points. So this is obviously going to be another double.
Or a second serve ace. Yes, that ace, of course, is so effective and can be so demoralizing, but you've really got to be prepared for it naturally. He's well known, his reputation precedes him. Second to Sampras on the ATP Tour last year, but actually struck all year over 1,000 aces, including the Grand Slam Cup. That's a lot of games won. Incredible. Because one of the features of the Forget-Ivanisevic match was the long rallies that we had. Both of them quite prepared to play almost clay court like tennis on this court, and I don't think Pioline would object to doing that.
Well, Ivanisevic not convinced about that call at all, having another look at the line judge behind him. So a second ace from Pioline.
Quite a high ball toss Pioline has.
No, it's just long.
Pioline body about 2-1.
2-1 then to Pioline, a nice love service game for the Frenchman. Fru, you were talking about the particular pressures that Ivanisevic is under here, playing in front of his fellow countrymen. Only the second tournament he's ever played in Croatia, runner-up in the 1919 UMAG to his countryman Goran Pripyat. But I suppose to a certain extent now, having got to the final, there's a little bit less pressure. I mean, it would have been, well, almost an unmitigated disaster for the tournament, given that he's the only seed to have reached the semis, if he hadn't made the final.
Yeah, it's a difficult one to assess because I hear your point, but of course the pressures of a final are so much more intense really than any other, just because the title is only one match away. And some people almost get the feeling and say occasionally that it would be better to lose early on in an event rather than in a final, because you are so near and yet so far. But I suppose what you're saying is that at least it's some sort of sop to the crowd and the tournament directorship and Croatia itself if he is in the final, because at least he's got that far in the event that the disappointment isn't acute. But I think he would still nevertheless feel the pressures, just because it is a final.
Good night. Mr. 15 love.
Well, it's the same line judge who didn't call one out in the previous game. Goran again having a good stare.
Of course, if Pioline is a little unsuccessful against left-handers, it tends to mean that the swinging serve troubles him. Ivanisevic, though, tends to serve the sort of change-up serve quite a bit. He very often goes to the forehand, particularly on the left court.
Fourth ace.
40 love.
Ivanisevic answers a love game with one of his own, and in the opening 4 games of the match, 2 points have gone against serve. And one of those was the double.
Yes, I'm surprised in some ways, knowing Pioline's game, that he doesn't do well against left-handers particularly, because he's got a very good backhand, but obviously what he finds that he is unable to do is slice against them. Because if there is power and if you are stretched wide, you don't have the time to run around it and play the drive backhand. He has got the slice in his repertoire.
No, that's a bit special.
Well, I said in one of my introductions that on the run, on the forehand side, Ivanisevic can be a real threat. He's nowhere near as effective on his right, to his right, where, of course, he has to do just a little bit more running because he plays that with 2 hands.
Showing he can play the in-to-out forehand as well. Yes, President making a point to his aides. That's it. Third ace.
50-30.
Welcome relief, because certainly the first signs are that Ivanisevic striking the ground strokes better than he has all week. Even made 3 double-handed backhands in a row.
Please set over. 30 all.
there's something altogether more positive about Ivanisevic in these early stages than there was in his last two matches.
Yes, I think he feels that he's really arrived at his date with destiny by getting to the final, as you were saying earlier, and he's certainly a lot more at ease.
The first break point. They've come a long way. No, just missed it. Both of them employing the centre theory there for most of that rally.
Yes, a little ominous perhaps for Pioline. He was broken by Goran in the second set, and in two other games he was break points down against the German.
Well, we've seen a couple of illustrations of the point Phil McMillan was making about Goran being nowhere as good when on the run to his backhand side. He does like to try the fancy sometimes, Ivanisevic, when the basic would be better.
That was really a perfect response by Pioline. It's very dangerous to reply to the drop shot by going cross court, because you can't get a lot of pace in the shot, and consequently a tall man stretching wide has got a lot of open court. But as you say, Ivanisevic loves to play it on the backhand side. I think actually gets into this habit just a little too often, because not only the habit of playing the drop shot, but it's the habit of using one hand for the backhand. And if he used two hands even more regularly, his shot therefore would be a lot more comfortable for him. So there's one backhand with two, and here's one with one. Just now we saw him play three in a row. I think he needs to play a lot more and to get in tune therefore with his backhand side. Pioline, like his parents, a terrific athlete. He may look heavy and he may sound when he walks sort of heavy on his feet, but when it comes to actually moving about and running, he's quite twinkle-toed.
His parents, both volleyball players. His mother, Cedric's mother, played for Romania. His father for the racing club in France, just outside Paris, and his brother was a member of the French volleyball squad. Two-three. He's just found the edge of the baseline, and again Ivanisevic being punished for the drop shot. Wisely not deciding to go for a third.
15-all.
Well, we've seen good variety in this game from Pioline. On the first point, a nice blocked return on the backhand. Now that's a good sign, because that's where I would have thought him vulnerable given his record against left-handers.
Ace number 5.
That's when you need a 62-inch racket, let alone the maximum of 32, soon to be reduced, we're told.
Yes, to 29. He had a break point in the last game. Now Ivanisevic faces one.
Yes, now the inclination when you're facing a left-hander is to assume he's going to serve wide, and he certainly served wide in the last one, but he very often, Ivanisevic, I would say 7 out of 10 times, goes down the middle on this side to a right-hander.
Oh, great shots. And Pioline, the man who's never won a title, makes the first decisive move of the final.
Well, brilliant. It was a matter of who was going to attack, and it seemed to me that Pioline very reluctant to use the slice to attack, and I thought Ivanisevic had done the right thing, but Pioline kept his style, and more important, kept his nerve.
Not quite sure what he's asking Rudy Berger there. Certainly we're not due for new balls for another game.
Penalty. 15
It's tough being a local official when the crowd are at you.
Yes, I think if Ivanisevic hadn't mishit this, he may have had something to say about it. Pretty close.
Well, signs that Ivanisevic is beginning to retreat into his shell a little bit, pushing the ball back rather as he has in his last 2 matches.
Yes, and Pioline's dangerous to do that against because he can drive so well, so hard from both wings. What does seem obvious is that Ivanisevic it is who's going to have to make the plays, that although he's hitting well from the back of the court, Pioline, he doesn't, not seeking the net readily.
And that was a good play to make the sliced short ball deliberately short.
And that's perhaps why he doesn't, because he tends to rush it just a little bit. Feels that perhaps he's got to make a better shot than really he has to do. particularly, I think, against Ivanisevic backhand. He can come in on something a little less than that.
40 love to 40-30.
And only one first serve made. Well, can you cap that backhand? I wonder. This is terrific. That's how well he can do it. And if there's no pace from Pioline, of course, then he's more able to use it. So really, first serve means more pace. And yet, Ivanisevic hasn't seen but one.
When he found the first serve that time. So what looked a very straightforward game at 40 love is anything but.
Can you pronounce that?
Certainly not. I'll let you go first. I'm always a gentleman, you know that.
And nobody in sight. Mr. Franilovic might have picked it up and played for him.
Zelko Franilovic, the tournament director, who's sitting next to President Tudjman. He's also now Croatia's Davis Cup captain and a former French Open finalist.
Net, second serve.
He's not a great half volleyer, Goran Ivanisevic. He doesn't really get down to the ball, and that was costly. 5-2. So Cedric Pioline has won 6 more points than Goran Ivanisevic, but more importantly, he's won 3 more games. And Goran at 2-5 must serve to stay in this opening set. You're watching Eurosport's live coverage of the final of the Croatian indoors from Zagreb. And this capacity crowd a little quiet. New balls in play.
Yes, the most important point that he's won so far, Pioline, of course, was that break point. Because it was Ivanisevic who was the first to have break point.
Well, the lob wasn't very good, but again, he managed the stab return, didn't he? The block backhand return.
Yes, he's got it. It's just a matter of making up his mind early enough that he's going to use it, and really I would be thinking of using it all the time virtually.
Ace number 6.
And I say that because the Ivanisevic serve comes through so hard that really, unless it's a second serve, and only an inverted commas unless, I would still really have my grip ready for the chop.
Crunch time for Pioline, serving for the first set.
It always seems so simple, doesn't it, against the left-hander? Get the serve out wide and just volley to the open court.
And he's complying with the cardinal rule when you're serving for a set to get the first serve in. Not a lot on the approach shot though.
No, he's obviously a man who believes that against Ivanisevic he's got to come in with power, the rolled shot rather than the slice shot. And I think he tends to do that against most people.
Oh, that's a lovely shot because it was a good approach from Ivanisevic, and it's 2 set points for the Frenchman.
Frenchman's really keeping his head here. A lot of pressure mounting on him, and he kept it down.
Cedric Pioline is halfway towards that elusive first ATP Tour title. He's won the first set by 6 games to 3.
David's commented a number of times on almost stony silence there is when the opposition wins a game or wins points here. We noticed it particularly when Ivanisevic was playing Ruud and Zinner in the first 2 rounds. And they're certainly out for their man. And of course it gives an almost an eerie-like pressure, charged atmosphere, and perhaps just doesn't aid Ivanisevic anymore, because he needs to be perhaps a little bit more relaxed, although to be honest he's been more relaxed I think in this match than in any other of the matches so far. Just that Pioline has kept really immensely calm and cool under pressure.
Yes, I'd go along with that. I thought Goran was playing really well up to the time he had that break point. He sort of looked absolutely set to take over, but Pioline has come back at him really well. Second set then.
Follow.
Yes, Ivanisevic was a set down in the quarterfinals against Adrian Voyner.
second-ranked Frenchman behind Birch. At 62, France isn't exactly laughing.
Is over 30-all.
Second double.
We have got 6 in the top 100, and for all you Lecon fans, he's ranking at the moment as 183.
Henri, who says he's going to retire after the French Open. We'll miss him. Such a great entertainer over the years. Seventh ace.
40-20.
So all sorts of people packing up their rackets this year. Lecon, Jeremy Bates after Wimbledon, and of course Stefan Edberg at the end of the year.
Ivanisevic.
So 2 aces at the end of that game to give Ivanisevic a 1-love second set. I'm David Mercer, alongside me Fru McMillan. Delighted to have your company this Sunday afternoon for our live coverage of the final of the Croatian indoors. Bit of a surprise at the moment, the unseeded Pioline, the set-up on the number 1 seed Ivanisevic. Pioline serving at love 1 in the second.
Well, he really handled the slice. It was heavy slice that Pioline applied, which kept the ball very low, and you can so easily hit those into the net. But the woody forehand coped with it. Pioline's the sort of server who can be winning his serve easily, not that he's always done that here. And then suddenly, in a flurry of shots, just lose it. It's an inconsistent serve. There's something about the action that just wobbles a little bit.
Silva, 15-all.
There's a sort of stop, isn't there? And
yeah.
Hiccup.
Yeah. He's far from jelly-like. And Ivanisevic, I suppose, is a string bean while we're thinking of food. He's far from jelly-like, but he sort of, as I say, wobbles a bit on the serve. Almost loses his balance.
First serve.
And I think that may be the one factor, really, that has prevented him winning a title.
Well, it would do so much to raise Goran's morale and those of his fans if he could get off to an immediate break in this set.
Fala. Is over 30-all.
Yes, don't break a finger trying to catch it.
Yes, a really unnecessary error, because Pioline had played into his hand somewhat by missing the serve again, the first serve. Pioline must be thinking, I would think, first serve and volley some stage during this game.
Maybe he now wishes he hadn't.
Took a bit too much off the serve, didn't he?
30-40.
Got a firm grip on things. Dangerous, the forehand. He really planted the left foot, gave him the lovely foundation for the shot.
So Ivanisevic's second break point of the match.
Morning.
Yes, that's the right thing to do when someone is whistling just as you're about to serve. Back away and start again. Suddenly there's a different complexion in the hall and a different environment and atmosphere.
Well, it certainly didn't quite happen as I envisaged it, because his serve didn't break down that much. There were missed first serves, 3 of them, but it was good returning, particularly that backhand return then from Ivanisevic.
15 love.
Well, that's a high quality point. Every shot from both of them.
30 love.
Well, again, he ended it up with his favourite drop volley, but perhaps he might have learned that he should drop volley when the ball's hit hard at him, and not really when it's hit particularly softly.
Confidence beginning to flow through the veins as we looked at Daniela, his girlfriend, Goran's girlfriend. And the big ace on the second serve. And that's 10 and aces from Ivanisevic, and he's raced away to a 3-love second set lead. Prue, I know the theory, of course, of electing to receive serve at the start of the match is to try and break immediately when your opponent hasn't settled down. But when you've got a huge serve like Ivanisevic, I can never understand it, because I always felt, even at the level I play, that if I'm one game ahead, I'm doing so much better, whereas if I'm one game behind, you feel more tense all the time.
Yes, I quite agree. Of course, what it suggests is not that you're totally aware of your strengths in the game, but that you're perhaps more aware of how you feel mentally. And if you're just a little lacking in confidence, the fact that he's been stretched in all his matches, Ivanisevic, because it was he who won the toss and elected to receive, then he probably felt he just wasn't quite ready to go out and serve. But I think that's negative thoughts, and I would rather, certainly if I were coaching him, I'd ask him to serve, because he might refuse and fire me. But I would try and get him to serve first every time, because even if he is feeling just a little down, the opposition is generally a bit slow to start anyway. So he could get away with perhaps 1 or 2 loose serves. But as you say, to be serving ahead is such an advantage.
15 love. That first serve.
First double fault of the final from Pioline, and I doubt that in the 7 he's served in the week now, that there's been a wilder one.
No, it was as far out as a Lynn Davies jump, wasn't it?
And these days we have to think in terms of Jonathan Edwards, the triple jumper.
Thinking of, is he Welsh?
No, I can't claim him. Can claim Ian Woosnam. Great to see the little man back in form again with the old sticks. Winning again, I gather, today.
Huge point, that, of course.
Please, Cedric.
They're going through a real crisis at the moment, Pioline. And a point for the double break.
Pioline.
Suddenly quite loose mentally because, and I mean loose in the more positive sense, not uptight, because he was so far behind there.
Red nose, Pioline.
Oh, dear Lord. What on earth is going on here? Remember, he's only served 6 double faults in 4 previous matches, and now he served 3 in 1 game.
Well, the jelly is beginning to set. Exhibition tennis.
And having got himself back into the rally, Goran will actually be a bit upset that he didn't win it.
I think he's done more running in this point than he's done all week long here, Ivanisevic. Not that he hasn't tried, but he seldom gets the opportunity. It's 3, 4 or 5 times to run after shots.
And he gets a net cord on the next return of serve. And we're back at juice. The 3rd of this game.
Red nose, Pioline.
Got a sense of adventure about him, Pioline. He's a comical side to him, sort of jumping and letting that one go through his legs, because of course had it touched him, he would have lost the point.
Igra, Pioline. Ivanisevic vodi 3-1 ili 3-1.
So Pioline, very importantly, opens his account in the 2nd set, a set that was threatening to race away from him.
Holding his stomach, it's almost as if he might want to go off, or he might need some attention. Yes, he could have kissed the set goodbye, I think, if he'd lost that game.
I suppose a strained stomach might explain some of the double faults. If he's hurting, when he's going through that service motion as he's lifting up.
I think it's all the butterflies going crazy.
Once again, the desire for the extravagant gets the better of Ivanisevic.
Yes, it was a juicy little shot from Pioline. I just wondered whether Ivanisevic, he could not resist it. And what you remember most about that point, of course, is the 2 kicks he gave of the tennis ball. I think he's still an impressionable boy, almost.
Oh dear. His 3rd double. And suddenly what was beginning to be a race-away set is now anything but. In grave danger of conceding the advantage.
Ace
number 11. He doesn't hold back on the second serves, does he?
And a long, long stretch across there by Pioline. Not too much foot movement. That would have taxed any muscle. That's, I think, when he's so good to watch Pioline, because he's got flair on both sides, on both wings.
Break back point. Was there a slight hint of a miss-hit with the winning shot?
Might have been, but I think I give him almost full marks, because I really expected him to hit it down the line.
Ace number 12. So we're up to 86 for the week.
Ivanisevic.
Oh, he came through a little crisis there, Ivanisevic. Now then, yes, Alex Stober, the trainer, is indeed coming out to look at Pioline.
Yes, one's inclined to think of Ivanisevic, of course, as being one-dimensional, but he's far from it, and his clay court record early last year would suggest that. He did really well in the tournaments leading up to the French, and it seems not to be... I noticed him earlier feeling a leg as well, and maybe it's just the groin, the upper thigh. Just, well, it's a male trainer.
Of course, at every ATP tournament, you'll see someone like Alex Stober or Bill Norris, who was in Shanghai this week, or Per Bastholt, who was with us in Qatar, and was then down at the Australian Open. Now, didn't take an injury timeout, just a bit of a rub, so maybe he had a existing problem. If you have an existing problem, you're not allowed to take an injury timeout. That's only for a new injury. 1-4.
Yes, here's a man, of course, who's quite injury prone. He had to withdraw in 3 tournaments last year, including the US Open. Actually retire whilst playing. I did notice Pioline, after that slight fall earlier on, feel his leg, but as you say, it may have been something that was just aggravated.
That would be rotten luck if his desperate attempt to finally win a final, he was being handicapped. Maybe going for a little more on the ground strokes than one would expect, or am I reading too much into that?
Who are we talking about?
Pioline, hitting out a bit more, trying to get the points a little early.
Could be, but I think he needs to too.
Pioline.
I don't think you get anything for hitting the sign, do you?
No, you certainly don't get a Mercedes. Although some lucky person will get a Mercedes tonight. It was a prize every ticket. It's an automatic entry into a raffle being drawn on Croatian television tonight. There's a points won at the net. An overrule from Rudy Berger. Yes, that was a chance missed. I was fascinated that, reading the information about the Shanghai tournament, that with all the Chinese import taxes there, a Mercedes costs over $300,000, and they've sold 1,000 in Shanghai alone. So capitalism is thriving in a communist country.
Super point. Of course, thinking about Pioline and the strain, this is his first tournament of the year, and he's played a lot of tennis in it. Remember the couple of doubles matches as well. It's one of the disadvantages of your first event. And doing as well and playing as many games as he had. The others, of course, are a little bit more match fit.
Cedric, 40-15. Ivanisevic.
Getting a good percentage of first serves in that game, Goran, and stretching Pioline. And it's 5-2 to Ivanisevic. A reverse situation to where we were in the first set when Pioline led 5-2.
Yes, I think important for Pioline, seeing him miss the chopped backhand on the last serve there, to even if he's down in a game and Ivanisevic is likely to win the game, I think it's important for him to try and make them, because I think that really is the reason why he has been so unsuccessful against left-handers, with very few exceptions. And of course, this is one of the strongest servers in the game. You really need to have the blocked backhand return in sync, so that I think even though Ivanisevic might get up 40-love, 40-15 in a game, important for Pioline to seek to see the ball into the middle of the racket and just to find the feel, get the feel on the backhand, get the rhythm, so that when the big point does arise, he's more equipped to play it.
Pioline's had a bit more treatment from Alex Stober, a bit more massage on the left thigh or left groin. New tennis balls. 2-5.
Yes, that's the point I make about Pioline really needing to get a bit more power on his shots, serve as well as the ground strokes, because if he doesn't, Ivanisevic has the power, and he doesn't want the Croat dictating.
Second serve, the other one having been off the net, called an out.
Over. 15-all.
Well, I didn't think it was that good. that maybe he was just on his heels and thought, what the heck, that'll strain me all the more. But if so, that's important.
Already unleashing the double-hander, and here are 2 set points for Ivanisevic. Really unleashing that one, and of course if he can break again to close out the set, that will give him the advantage of serving first in the third.
Please, the 30-40.
He's getting carried away. Good resistance from Pioline. Željko Franilovic is the gentleman on the right of your screen, the tournament director.
The president seems as keen as President Yeltsin, doesn't he? Getting quite flushed here with Ivanisevic's success.
He's
just been made the honorary patron of the Croatian Tennis Federation and has opened their new offices this weekend. It's President Tudjman.
Goran, Pioline. Ivanisevic, body, 10-3, leads 5-3.
Doing well there, the Frenchman, Pioline, to hang on. And he may remember that in the first set, Ivanisevic had a break point, failed to take it, lost his serve next game. In this set, there's one game where he had a break point, and he had to survive a break point in the next game. So maybe Ivanisevic will be a little vulnerable here. Serving, of course, to level it, a set all.
Did he sniff the ball or did he kiss it?
Mr. Bednarz, love 15.
No, he kicked it.
Mr. Ivanisevic, love 30.
Remember, he served for the match against Voinea and didn't get any first serves in, and eventually had to win in a final set tiebreaker. So the double faults have really given Pioline a chance.
Well, I suppose if anybody can serve double faults in a game and win it, it's Ivanisevic and Sampras. And Pioline in one game, remember, served 3 in one game and won it. And he hasn't exactly got a blitz-like serve.
Bednarz, Cedric, 15-14.
Well, that's the nature of the beast, isn't it? Extraordinary.
And you really will be hoping that history of some kind repeats itself here.
Oh. I've got the little trembler device. Those are the service percentages. So Ivanisevic is really dropping away now at 52. Not a single one in this game.
Second serve.
He produced the slower ball.
Yes. You have to say, well, why didn't you do that a little sooner? Still break point. Good try from Pioline. There's Daniela in the centre. Goran's girlfriend. Daniela Mihajlic. I'm pleased to see him get out of that scrape.
Well, he had to do some low hurdling there, Pioline, as he went to the side of the court and knocked the hurdle down. Of course, that happened to Ivanisevic, and he really got a nasty bruise. It's quite close to the court.
Well, what a return. Well, for Ivanisevic, special. That is the first serve he's got in this game.
It is, and real disbelief.
That's his 13th ace. Give me that ball, please. That's the ace ball. Will 13 be unlucky for Pioline? I don't think there was any doubt about it being wide. And there's the set. Well, Ivanisevic a little fortunate to escape from that situation, one of his own creating, with the three doubles. And so parity is achieved. One set all, and both have won 9 games. But it must be so frustrating against Ivanisevic. You get into those breakpoint situations, including the one with that fabulous return of a serve, and then he just thunders down the big ones. Nice souvenirs to be kept. But where's Goran? Oh no, that's the Croatian Open later this year. There we are, in the middle of August on clay. We've actually brought it forward a week, which I think is a good idea, because it means that it's not immediately up against the US Open. There will be a gap of a week between it and the US Open, whereas last year, people like Thomas Muster won the title there. He went straight from Umag and had a very convoluted journey to New York.
Yes, it's never easy the week before or the week after, is it? Which is why one credits Monica Seles for playing this week. I'm sure it was a previous commitment, having won the Australian. Never easy. The curtain raiser or the morning after the night before.
The third and final set, and Pioline serving.
Mr. Bernard, love 15.
Well, he's not an immense server of aces, but he didn't serve one in the second set, Pioline, so he really needs to up the consistency there.
And of course it was the loss of his first service game in that second set that cost Pioline the set.
Love 13.
can ill afford to let this man get away to the sort of lead he had in that set. Yeah, that's the danger, isn't it? We've seen it through, told you about it even before the match started. On the run on the forehand, Ivanisevic can be lethal.
Well, it's wonderful, not only shot, but of course commitment and perfect timing.
3 break points.
Morley. Cedric, 15-14.
It's always interesting how you play the very first point. Do you really just have a crack at it saying, well, you've got 3 break points? Or do you figure, well, if I play one steady, he may just be so unnerved that he may miss? Well, no matter what happens, I suppose you're well loved.
Well, now what does he do on the third? Does he say, well, I haven't gone for the first 2, do I go for this one?
Yes, I think he'll be looking to come in at some stage, particularly if Pioline misses the first serve, and that's, of course, the crux here.
Well, there goes the racket. I'm not surprised. What an opportunity missed. And he picks up a code violation as well.
Well, he played it almost perfectly because although Pioline made, I thought, a good move, the volley really was a nervy one. And I think most of us would have done virtually that, but it got the warning it deserved.
And now it's Pioline's turn to miss the sitter.
Pioline's turn to throw the racket. She's not going to do.
You're thinking, well, how well Ivanisevic had played that point. He'd chosen the right moment to come in, and then with the net caught, it just seemed to sit up and be so inviting for this man. 4th break point. And now the second serve. Oh, lovely forehand. He didn't go for it, did he?
No, well, he's been successful. I said I thought Ivanisevic might try and come in. Of course, he's not somebody who tends to chip and charge. But I just felt with Pioline coming back by forcing the ball, he might try and prevent him from doing it. But he's been successful at just sparring up and down the middle.
A 5th chance for Ivanisevic. played, Pioline.
Terrific play, and it's a dry hand he needs, not a new leg. No real signs in this pretty enervating game here that he's hampered much by that injury. I think it's pretty slight.
Pednos Pioline.
Juice for the fourth time.
I wonder if mishitting there might induce him to play just a bit more cautiously. It would be a shame.
There wasn't any sign of caution there. Going for the line. And now a sixth break point for Ivanisevic in this game, although it's only the first game of the final set, assuming huge importance. Didn't do enough, and this time it's the Pioline racket that goes flying as Ivanisevic breaks on his sixth break point and leads 1-love in the... So plenty for Cedric Pioline to ponder, having dropped his serve in the opening game of the final set of this final of the Croatian indoors. Ivanisevic serving at 1-love.
15 love.
Ace number 14.
Three submission. 30 love.
President smiling a little now. He's feeling happier.
Well,
that's an overrule, I think, by Rooney Berger. He's a brave man.
Should have just said 40 love. Ivanisevic.
Pioline's frustration just beginning to show a little, I think. A love game from Ivanisevic, 16 aces. But he roared off to a 3-love lead in the second set. Admittedly, he was serving first then. Still had to struggle to close it out.
Hey, please. Can you pick up the ball, please? Mr. Pennas, love 15. Out. Mr. 3 to set, love 30.
Yes, he's really getting very frustrated. Now, of course, you do a bit when you've saved so many break points, and yet in the end the opponent breaks it. Somehow it's worse having many break point opportunities against you and saving them, and then in the end losing it, than just the one. Because you feel you've had your chances, and of course you have a deuce.
If that slightly mishit return had landed in, that would have been the final straw.
That's for sure, in more ways than one. A finalist yet again.
Three is over, 30 all.
His first ace since the first set. Got to tell himself that Ivanisevic is not invincible. Even his serve's not invincible. One break, it isn't over yet. Two, I think it would be.
Cedric has set 3 to set, 40-30.
Oh, Goran, what are you doing? No good staring at the ball as it goes past you. You're supposed to hit it. There's no way that was going out.
It was a set of Piolines where he had, how many was it, 6? Did it on the 6. That was just about par for the course.
2-1 though with the break. And the ace is going thick and fast. We're up to now 17. There's a certain amount of fatalism in the mood of Pioline at the moment.
Yes, I think he suddenly realized his sort of deficit in matches played against left-handers, and he's gone back to his old losing ways. On the other hand, I've seen that look so often. People playing Ivanisevic, it's sort of a shell-shocked look of the bombs coming in on the serve.
Ivanisevic.
2 service games for Ivanisevic in this set, both of them to love. And is Pioline destined to be the runner-up yet again? Reminded that this is his 8th final and he's never won one.
Mr. 15 love.
Well, this is good resolution. He must certainly be a little tired. We know he's got that little strain. It can only be little. He's played a lot of tennis, but the prize must still beckon, and he's got to tell himself that. He's broken the man's serve before.
Oh, that's good play from Ivanisevic.
3 is at 30-15.
Really positive on both the return and the follow-up of it.
Cedric has at 40-15.
Hurled his shoulders at that, didn't he? Good. Round. Lost balance and lost control.
Pioline. Ivanisevic body 3 bar, elite 3-2.
And again, the almost stony silence greets a game won by Ivanisevic's opponent. But, well, maybe, no, I thought for a moment he was looking down in pain. Well, maybe a few calluses, a few blisters. Of course, this is his first tournament of the year, Pioline. He elected not to play the Australian Open and the tournaments running up to it. He played all the way up to and including the Grand Slam Cup in December, but then so did Ivanisevic, and he played for a few days longer because he won it. And he's had a busy schedule: Hopman Cup, Sydney, Australian Open, and straight back. You'll be glad of some time off next week.
Yes, and I wonder if we're looking at his bank manager, because there is a sign-up here for one of the local banks, and certainly Ivanisevic with the Grand Slam Cup, the Hopman Cup, the final in Sydney. Even though he failed in Australia, he would have sent many a handsome cheque back home.
And some of the handsome prize money, 1.5 million for winning the Grand Slam Cup, has gone to his charity for children who've been displaced and orphaned and disabled by the terrible events in the former Yugoslavia of the last few years.
And the Hopman Cup's done marvels for Ivanisevic, has it not?
Certainly has. He went with us earlier. Ivanisevic today beat Arantxa Sanchez Vicario in straight set, 6-4, 6-1 to win the tournament in Tokyo. And of course Iva is Croatian, so it could be a big Croatian double. Well, she inflicted only Monica Seles' second defeat since Monica's return last August. The other being in the final of the US Open by Steffi Graf.
He's bowling particularly well on his forehand side, which very often lets him down, as it does with many a top player. Can be a little limp there, but he's got a bit more depth in it. It's not a shot that he punches particularly, he sort of steers it, but he's been steering it deep and steering it in good directions.
40 love.
He's a little speedier now in all his actions.
Yes, the confidence is flowing through him. And that's 3 successive love service games for Ivanisevic. And he only needs to hold 2 more, only. But I tell you, he would love to have the insurance of getting the double break here.
And now Snishta, 15 love.
Well, one of them will lose, but somebody who can't lose, of course, is the people who make their rackets, because they use rackets manufactured by the same company.
Lead is Snishta, 30 love.
Well, that's one way of altering the score, demolish the scoreboard. Who's this fellow Ivanisevic I was playing of? Never heard of him.
Yes, we had a famous anti-apartheid bishop in South Africa called Joost de Blank. Give me a break.
I said he would love to have the insurance of the double break, takes all the pressure off you when you come to serve for the match. And here's the opportunity. Break point for a 5-2 lead.
King of Croatia point this, really, isn't it?
Go for it.
Well, I'm glad that Pioline won the point, really, because I always feel it's a lettle watching a match if somebody wins through 2 breaks. It's good to see them have to serve for the match. That's when the pressure really is on.
I didn't realise you had sadistic tendencies.
I suppose, yes. If every tennis player is a sadist.
I like to see them suffer as they serve for it.
Red nose, Ivanisevic.
He may be denied that pleasure. Second break point. Now, will he be more positive this time? Doesn't get the chance to be. And that's excellent play from Pioline.
Yes, and what I admire about it so much too is that it's actually a beautiful shot. You can't, at least I can't say that about too many forehands, I don't think.
Red nose, Pioline.
Well, it kept a little bit low, that sneaky little one to play. It's not rebound ace.
We've
had a couple of long service games on the Pioline serve in this final set. 4 deuces in the first game before Ivanisevic broke through. It's now the third. Third break point.
Red nose, Ivanisevic.
Real battle of the minds on the forehands.
All in.
Resisting to the end, Pioline. Yeah, steady, Goran, steady, steady. Next warning is a point. You don't want to do that. That would be a story, wouldn't it, if he was 4-2 up in the final set, got himself disqualified. Always, when you see a player getting ready to bash a ball in anger, I always now think of poor Tim Henman at Wimbledon last year. doing that and clocking the ball girl by mistake. Off.
Ivanisevic.
Well, he took 6 break points to break through in the opening game of the set, and this is the 4th.
Well, Ivanisevic is keeping up the pressure, but Pioline's not helping himself by missing far too many first serves. 10th missed first serve in this game. Can you believe it? You can't really blame them because it was such a rank-miss hit and everybody believed it was going to balloon out. Landed in the corner. There it is.
Yep, straddled the 2 lines.
Ivanisevic.
5th break point. Well, he's going to have a word with Rudy Berger about the crowd noise, but there's nothing Rudy could do. I don't think the crowd have been unreasonable. Maybe 1 or 2 things you would have said, well, shouldn't be doing that, but
he may be calling for replacements. You know, somebody to hit an ace, somebody to play a volley. Who would I call in? Sampras to serve, Edberg to volley.
Well, now then, what's he going to say? Is he going to call that an ace or going to give it 2 serves? I think having gone, he should go with the ace.
Got to be deuce. But I don't think he was right.
And deuce it is.
He's not going to get the freedom of Zagreb, I can assure you. Mr. Berger.
He's down as a 6th ace. Now then. Yeah, well, it was close. I'm going to sit firmly on the fence. And if Goran's got any sense, he'll just go back and play. After all, he's still 4-2 up, final set. Yes, we don't people whistling.
Ivanisevic.
The 4th double fault. And here we are at a 6th break point. That's obviously Ivanisevic's lucky number.
It's actually all happening anyway.
Morley.
Swipe at the flowers. I make it that Ivanisevic has now failed to convert on 13 break points in this match. He has, of course, broken twice. The
Red nose, Pioline.
Yes, I don't think you can credit it to bewildering serving by Pioline. It says something about the consistency of the Ivanisevic return, the inconsistency of it.
Well, that message isn't going to be in. And that's the sort of form you want him to display, and the attitude when he has break points. I mean, in fairness, obviously, he doesn't always have the chance to get in. Sometimes Pioline's come up with a good serve.
Bala.
Eighth deuce. And break point number 7.
And a real sign there, and who can blame him, not of Ivanisevic's prowess and strength, but of Pioline just running out of steam a little bit.
Two huge games in this final set, and Ivanisevic has won both of them on the Pioline serve, and I think poor Pioline is destined to be the bride. That's just to add to his problems. With new balls, Ivanisevic serves for the title and starts with ace number 20. I don't think he's going to make it to 100 for the week. He's up to 94.
Please, Cedric. 30 love. Bala.
Well, it would be fitting if he finished it off with 4 successive aces. President Tudjman in the middle, the president of Croatia. I suspect will be handing over the trophy to the man they would like to have as the king of Croatia, or at least the crown prince. 3 championship points.
Well, there are 2 A's in Croatia, aren't there?
That's it. 4 aces. And you know, in that final set, Ivanisevic didn't lose a point on his serve.
Well, really, I think it was a much more fitting final. The tennis was so much better in this than in the other matches that Ivanisevic played, but a fitting ending.